With the 228 miles that make up Maine's coastline, you knew that at some point, pirates would be mentioned in one of these stories. Of course, tales of pirates are all over New England. The thought of stumbling upon some hidden treasure has kept the imagination of many burning over the years. Today, we travel to the town of Machias to hear the story of a high-seas scoundrel named Sam Bellamy. Episode 17, The Whidaw, Machias, Maine. Incorporated all the way back in 1784, Machias translates to Bad Little Falls. The Machias River runs for 76 miles through a number of Maine territories. Machias has the distinction as the home of the Burnham Tavern, the place where the first naval battle of the U.S. Revolution was planned out. The tavern still stands today as a museum. It is also home to the University of Maine Machias, where Marcus Labrizzi works as an English professor. He has written a number of the books that I use as a reference in this series of tales. Today, let's focus on an interesting part of Machias' history, the tale of a would-be pirate haven, right in town.
Hey, look at that. I brought you back for another Stranger Maine. Welcome to the town of Machias. A little bit more down east than we've been with some of our previous stories the last couple of years, but an important one nonetheless. Machias, much like most of Maine, has a great tradition with the sea. And not just because of the fish or the lobster or things you might expect. Did you know that the very first naval battle of the U.S. Revolutionary War was actually fought just outside here in the waters outside of Machias and Machiasport? It's true. Had to deal with a British ship, the Margaretta, but that's a completely different tale. No ghost story attached to that one. You'll have to look it up on your own. The person I want to talk about today is Captain Samuel Bellamy, and he was in command of a ship called the Whidaw, which I'll put the name on the screen here. Mainly because there's about a 0% chance I'm pronouncing that correctly. His ship was used for pirating activity. Technically speaking, he was a privateer, but really that was just a pirate who had a letter from a government that said, hey, go ahead and raid all the ships you want for countries we don't like. And Bellamy and his crew were apparently pretty good at it. So they would go up and down the coast, they would travel farther north, farther south, confiscating all of the cargo of ships of other countries where he did not have a letter of marque from. And Bellamy was apparently kind of an interesting guy, kind of favored the idea of actually becoming, Machias becoming this haven for pirates. Actually, I'm at Bad Little Falls, which you could probably hear as I'm talking right behind me. He wanted to set up, and he sort of started to set up a crude fort here, a place where he could keep his loot, his recruits, and because pirates were known to be those swashbuckling gentlemen, his women. So the idea was he could set up shop here and kind of run his operations up and down the coast, bringing the treasure back, recruiting new people, whatever it was he could do here from Machias. So where's the ghost story part, you might ask? We're getting to that. But Bellamy and his crew, like I said, were pretty good at what they did. They captured a lot of ships, they captured a lot of treasure, and they made pretty good fortune off of it. The problem was, at one point, they bit off a little bit more than they could chew. They attempted to attack a ship that they thought was just sort of a merchant ship, and it turned out to be a French warship that was also armed. Now don't get me wrong, Bellamy's ship did carry its own share of weapons. It was actually a converted slave trading vessel where they mounted guns and they used the holds to hold treasure instead of people. So I guess he gets a point in the win column for that. They attempted to capture this vessel flying a French flag, just as turned out, yeah, it was not something they should have done. Now they did manage to escape from that, and they started making their way back towards home port. The problem they ran into is they were badly damaged, and navigation was a bit tricky. Along the way, they found a whaling vessel and thought, hey, while we're on our way back, let's go ahead and steal this too. And they did. They managed to capture that particular vessel, and the captain of this whaling ship convinced Bellamy that, hey, you know what, I'll join you, it's cool. And he fell for it, mainly because he was pretty good at convincing people that you should come work for me. I'll bring you treasure, you'll get rich, it'll be awesome. So this captain of this whaling vessel convinced him, yeah, I'm with you, we got it. And they're sailing back together, and this is where the trickery came in. That other captain set up a maneuver towards a sandbank. He ended up beaching his own ship, but because the Whidaw was not able to steer or maneuver the same way, it ended up crashing into a bunch of rocks, tearing the hull open, and it sank with all hands on board. Now this happened not in Maine, it was actually down by Massachusetts. But I'll tell you a little bit more about its wreckage and the ghost story in the voiceover.
It is said that the Whidaw does not rest peacefully with her sailors. Despite being lost in the ocean with her captain and crew aboard, sightings of the ship persist. A ghostly ship cutting silently along the waves, her tattered black flag whipping about in the wind. How close would you get to such a sight? Perhaps they are still out there, looking for more of the things they sought in life, trapped forever in an unforgiving circle of piracy for the rest of time. So should you be out on the waves in Machias and Machiasport, keep your eyes peeled for the Phantom pirate ship.
Well, I'm not the sailing type, but I must admit that if I was out on the water and looked out and saw a ghost ship waving a black pirate flag, I might be a little leery of that too. It would turn myself around and head right back to port. So I hope you enjoyed this story. If you ever happen to be in this area, keep your eyes open, because on just the right occasion, you might see a ghostly image appear and then disappear. Oh, thanks for watching Stranger Maine. I'll catch you next time.